These 4 small containers took me 1 month to collect, laughably, and I would have been carrying on collecting them, but it's been a bit of a kind of drought. It hasn't really been raining, and even these hardy wild strawberries have been suffering, so this is all I've got for this year. 4 weeks of work. What am I doing with my life? Hello homebrewers, and welcome to my channel. So, because there's a bit of a drought on, these are about as much as I'm gonna get. So, I'm gonna be making some mead with it. Kind of a Viking recipe, but not. It's not something that is really written down, but they would have made this because strawberries was wild and plentiful across Europe. In fact, these particular type of wild strawberries. And also the only type of sweetening that they had in the Viking times was honey, so it makes sense that they would have made strawberry mead. That's what I'm going to be doing. Awesome. And I've got some mead to drink while I do it. Even better. So because I was so impressed with the value mead, even though I did caramelize it a bit, I was really impressed how it tasted. I gave some away and they liked it as well. And then I told them what it was and they didn't believe me. So I'm going to be using 2 jars of the cheap honey, and I'm also going to be using 1 jar of the set honey. This is going to give it a little bit more of the honey flavour, but at the same time not too much. I want it to be mainly the strawberries. Now they should have quite a nice strawberry flavour, but a bit more tart and a bit more zingy. That's the word I'm going to use. Have a drink. So it should be bit of an interesting recipe. It's not supposed to be sweet, it's supposed to be sort of strawberry zing. Let's see how this turns out. So I'm gonna go and heat up my set honey because it's really hard to get out the jar, and I'm also going to take the time to sterilize my bucket that I'm going to be brewing in. So I'm going to do that and then I'll be right back. So my bucket has been sterilized with bleach and washing out liquid. I also went ahead and bleached my worktop, just to make sure everything is sterile, because, well, the more sterile it is, the easier it is and the less you have to worry. So, step 1 is pretty straightforward. While my honey's heating through, we're going to add our strawberries into the bucket, straight. Now these are frozen, which doesn't help, but in they go. Lots of little seeds. And just keep going until I've done them all. Now all the strawberries have been done. Now I'm going to go and boil the kettle so we can sterilize these strawberries. So you may have noticed that my bucket has miraculously doubled in size. Now that's because no sooner had I put all the strawberries in there, did I notice that it pretty much filled halfway up. Not what you want. I'd only probably get 2 litres. It'd probably be very tasty, but still, I don't want 2 litres. I want 5 litres. Just over a gallon. So, my strawberries are now in my bucket and near the bottom-ish. So in goes my freshly boiled kettle. I've got roughly 1.5 litres. Now the idea is that this is going to kill off any wild yeast or infections there on the strawberries. So, in we go. And since these are all so tiny, they should pretty much instantly thaw out. Oh, it smells like strawberry tea. So, just going to put the lid on this while these thaw out. Yeah, just thought I'd check. And I'm going to go boil the kettle again. So I boiled the kettle again because the first boiling did scorch the outside of the strawberries, but it mainly defrosted them. Mainly. Scorched on the outside where all the bacteria is. If I open it from the right side, it would probably be a lot easier. So in goes my second 1.5 litres. This is just to make sure that we kill anything in here. Yep, it now feels warm. So now this is nice and warm, I'm going to add in my honey. Since this has already been warmed through, it actually just pours out. Novel. So I'm going to go ahead and add in all my honey. The last jar. So just to make sure I've got all of the honey I can, I'm actually going to swirl this out with hot water. So I'm going to go do that. Here's the last one. Looks almost like a lager. So since this stuff is still quite warm, I'm now going to use my stirry spoon to stir in all the honey. Oh, I wish there was smell-o-vision, because these strawberries really smell good. I think that is about it. So I added in 1.5, 3. So I need to add roughly 1.5 liters to this, though we all know how this goes when I start doing this. It normally goes wrong, but this time it's gonna go right. It will. Probably. So I'm just gonna get some cold water and top this up to roughly 4.5 liters. 5 liters including the strawberries. So I top the strawberry mead up to roughly where I think 4.5 liters is, using the measurements that I got from my kettle, and then adjust it accordingly. Now it does look like it's very slightly over. It comes up to here. That is because the strawberries are also going to displace some of the liquid, and there are a lot of strawberries. So in theory, it should be somewhere around the middle mark. In theory. We will see how this turns out. So it is now cool enough to pitch our yeast, but we've got to mix it all in so we get an accurate reading. So I'm just going to give it a stir, and it is looking beautiful. It has got strawberry red in there, and it smells really good. It smells like strawberries, except they're a lot smaller and it took a lot of time to do it, so it's even better, I've decided. Actually, it does smell pretty good. It actually smells like honey and strawberries, almost as if it was honey and strawberries. So that should be good enough. So let's go grab the hydrometer and see what this reads at. So I've gone ahead and I've taken some of the liquid out because the hydrometer didn't fit, and it's a perfect opportunity to show you the colour. It looks very nice, and this is only after a few minutes, so it should get darker as it ages and brews and matures. So I'll just give this a second for the hydrometer to settle out, and we'll see what it's reading at. I'm thinking somewhere around the 9-10% mark, if I did my maths right and actually measured 4.5 liters of liquid, which we'll see. So I've given it a minute or so for the hydrometer to make sure it's settled out. This isn't a proper trial jar, it's actually what the hydrometer came in, so it works, because most of the time I use my demi-jars and just dunk it straight in. Bad practice, but it works. So let's see what it reads at. It is saying here it is right around the 10% mark, which means it is 1.060, which is pretty good. It means it was spot on. So this bit I'm not going to put back in. Instead I'm going to have a tasty little strawberry honey drink. That tastes good. It's got a bit of sharpness from the strawberry, sweetness from the honey, and you can taste the honey in there. That cheap honey actually works really well with the set honey. Who would have known? I'm still shocked that it actually tastes nice. Cheers. Very, very drinkable. Oh. So you may have noticed that I haven't added in any yeast nutrient, and I'm not going to. This is because the strawberries I know it works with commercial strawberries, and wild strawberries should be better, just a lot smaller. Already have all the nutrients it takes to ferment itself, and if there is any residual sugars left in here, I'm not going to complain. That will counterbalance the sharpness of the strawberries. So what I'm going to be using for my yeast is the universal wine yeast. This is the Wilko's one, because I happen to have it. I also know you can mistreat this yeast and all general yeasts, and it doesn't produce off flavors. The specialty yeasts, you kind of got to be careful with those. The more specialized it is, normally the more funny it can be. I know we were talking about Larvin yeast, and they got all the specialized yeast for making craft meads. And they're great, don't get me wrong, but unless you control every single aspect, it's not going to come out right. Or not as good as it could be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle in just a portion of yeast on top. Not the whole packet, though you could. And that's us done. I'm just going to stick the lid on, and I'm not going to blitz the strawberries down. I'm just going to let them infuse and do their thing. And that is a wild strawberry mead, made very, very cheaply, just a lot of time and effort. So I'm going to let this brew out, come back in about a month's time, and we'll see what's happened, if it's actually any good. So I really hope you enjoyed this particular wild video. Kind of Viking, kind of not. Of course, I'm all up for suggestions and comments, if you like the video or not. Of course, check out some of the other ones and subscribe if you feel like it. Catch you in another video, guys. Carry on homebrewing. Still have mead.